Welcome back guys, this is Shrikant. Today we are going to talk about trigger. In last video we talked about different kind of trigger, right? Just to recap, we have three important type of trigger. The first trigger is called as the DML trigger, which basically called or evoke on the table activity or the DML activity. Then we do have a second kind of trigger which we call as the DDL trigger. That's a data definition language trigger. So when there is kind of any schema changes or schema creation alteration, at that time we can have the flexibility that we can call the trigger, or we can create trigger for that specific activity. Again, we have a third kind of trigger which is basically logon trigger, and that trigger is present at a server level. So before creating the session, if we want to track down some activity or if we want to restrict some user, so we can go for that server level trigger. So we'll consider everything, and I hope we'll try to understand most of the things. But this video is totally dedicated for understanding in detail for the DML trigger, because as a developer we mostly work on the DML part. So this is really very important for the beginner. I request everyone, please watch this video till end. Okay, so let's try with the demo. And before jumping into the demo, let's understand the definition. Let's recap the definition for the trigger. So trigger is a special kind of a procedure. Actually, it's a special kind of procedure which evokes or which gets called automatically when some kind of special kind of event get occurred. So for the table, when we do perform the insert, when we do perform delete, when we perform update, that time the DML activity happens. At the same time, so event get fired and some kind of special logic we need to execute. So if there is some insertion happen in the table, I want to track down this data into another table. I want to track down the count or different activity you want to do with when there is a firing the data, or when there is insert update delete operation on a table. So you want to perform some special kind of code, right? And that special code you need to write in a special part and or a special stored procedure, and that special procedure is a trigger, because you don't need to call anything, you don't need to execute anything, you simply need to insert, everything will be taken care by the trigger. So trigger is very important. Okay, so before understanding the DML activity for the trigger, let's try to understand the type of DML trigger. So there are two kind of DML trigger we have in SQL Server. The first type of DML trigger is called as after trigger. After trigger means what? When we perform insert update delete, or when we perform a DML operation on a table, so that time the trigger get fired, right? So what happens when data get loaded into the table? So if we want have some logic there, we can write there. Next kind of trigger is called as instead of trigger. So instead of trigger is kind of a trigger where basically you don't want to insert in, or even where you don't want to delete, or where you don't want to update anything, but you simply want to evoke if there is a such kind of activity on the table. Let's say if someone insert data, I don't want to insert that data into table, but I want to track down there is some kind of activities going on, right? So to get notification or to get alert or to perform special kind of activity, we have a trigger, and that kind of trigger is called as the instead of. Name suggests, actually name suggests instead of trigger. What should happen in instead of? Data never get loaded. First important thing is, if you are going for the instead of, if you are simply writing insert into the table name, that data, you will see the data, that query is happening correctly, but data won't get loaded any time. It won't have that kind of data in the table. So for the instead of just triggering the logic for another activity, if you go for after, it will load data into the table and it will fire the specific code if you want to track down. So for demonstration purpose, I'm going to create one database. Let's say the name for the database is create database dt or tr demo, right? So this is my database, create database tr underscore demo. Now I will run this script and I'll wait for a minute. Okay, it got executed. Next, I'm going to enter into respect to database. So I'm going to type use a database name. So I'll be jumping into that respective database. Okay, and now I am in a tr data demo underscore demo database. Fine. So now go to view, then go to the object explorer and go to databases, because that new database I'm not able to see. So go to database, just do a refresh and find out where is our DB. Our DB should be located here, tr underscore demo. Fine. Then expand it and then go to demo. Here I am seeing there is no column or no table actually, because obviously if there is a no table, there is no column, right? So there is no table. So what are we going to do? We are going to create one dummy table here. I'm going to write create table test and adding a column called as id, which has a data type int. Okay. So this is a table which I have in my database and I just created, and list. Okay, fine. So just go to the object explorer. Again, I'm not able to see. Just do a right click, just do a refresh, and the table will appear here. Okay, fine. Now, if I'll see the different options here, I can see columns, keys, constant, trigger. So one of the option is triggers. Just expand it. I can see here there is no trigger, right? Because we haven't created it. So we'll do what? We are going to create a trigger for the DML activity. So just do a right click, click on a new trigger. So this is basically default template which is generated by SQL Server for us. Fine. So what are we going to do? We are going to decode the syntax. So what exactly it is asking for us? Here I am going to see the create is a keyword, trigger is a keyword, so no need to change. Here from the brackets I can see here this need to be the name for the trigger. So I'm going to give a name for the trigger. I'm giving as a trigger test trigger. This is the name of a trigger. Fine. Then here what exactly is asking? It's asking on which table do you want to fire trigger. I want to fire trigger on a test table. Let's check, verify the name. Okay, test is there. Fine. Then for which activity I want to perform DML trigger for the insert, update, delete. Okay, fine. Then this is a block of code where you need to write a logic. So what my target is now, whenever I do insert into test table, at the same time I need to load data into another table. Let's say this is basically used for the archive purpose, actually the basic implementation I would say. Let's say another table, create test2, and its data type again is the same like int id int. Okay, fine. Just create this table. My target is whenever I do insert, update or delete on a test table, at the same time data should also get loaded into the test table. So I need to write here insert. We are not doing anything actually, just try to understand, just want to simply understand here. But one important thing here, when we talk about trigger, when we talk about specifically DML trigger, we need to think about two important tables. Those two tables are called as a magical table. The first table is called as the inserted, another table is called as the deleted. Okay, so whenever I do insert, update, delete activity, that time this two table will get populated and you only have the access of this two table inside trigger. Outside the trigger you can't have the access for this two table. Okay, these are on the flash generated, and the structure for this table would like the structure of our main table. And if we talk about inserted, data will have be populated for inserted table only when there is a kind of insert or update activity, and for delete and update. So what happen, when we try to delete something, so only delete happen, fine. But when we go for the update, in the update case, first we need to delete the data, then we need to insert the data. That kind of thing happen actually. And for the insert, only the new data. So this important two table are there. So what we are going to do, we are going to simply write select. This is the first video, try to understand. Select star from test, right? So will we write test? No, we will use magical table inserted. See, this table got appeared here, inserted, and also if there is such kind of activity like a delayed, that also I need to track down. So simply say select star from deleted, or I can say like this. Fine. So this is the definition of my trigger, and I'm creating this trigger for after. Let's try to understand. Let's create this trigger. Again, go back to the object explorer, and here I'm not able to see the trigger. Just do the refresh and see the name of trigger is tr underscore test trigger. We just created it. Fine. So now what are we going to do? We are going to insert data in my first table, and my expectation is that I would see the data into new table. Insert into what? Into test. Fine. Select one. Select one. Fine. So I'm going to show you some select clauses here just to verify the data before running the code. Select star from test, and we are going to run another table. Just type select star from test underscore 2. Fine, and let's run it. I'm going to see no data because there is no data. Now what I'm going to do, I'm going to load data only in one single table. It's a test table. Just remember, I'm not calling anything, I'm not calling any store procedure. Everything happen automatically. I'm seeing one happen. Okay, that's fine. Now I'm coming back and I'm running both query again. What I'm going to see, what my expectation is, I'm going to see one row, right? But I haven't called anything, I haven't executed any specific script for inserting data into the test underscore 2 table, right? So it got automatically added. So this is called as the trigger, and basically which is a after trigger. Let's run it once again and see. Now we will see the two rows. This is just an example to understand or to show you that how trigger works. Now, important and interesting thing. Now we are going to create another trigger called as instead of. So when we talk about the instead of trigger, even though you are triggering, you are inserting or deleting data on a respective table, the data won't get loaded into the main table, right? But the logic which you have written inside the trigger which get executed. Now to demonstrate it, let's try to understand. Now I just changed the definition. What I'm going to do, I'm going to do one thing now. I'm going to change 1 to 2, and I'm going to query this statement and going to see the output. Let's see now what happens. 1 happened, that's fine. Now come back and let's run the query. Now let's see the difference. Actually, the few moment before we executed a query like insert into test select 2, but if I observe carefully, I can see there is no data with respect to my last query in my parent table, but I'm going to see the data in my child table. Basically the logic inside my trigger got executed successfully, but the data is not appeared in a main table. So this is basically the difference. So when you go for an instead of trigger, the trigger get fired, the data query get executed successfully, query and trigger get fired, but data won't get loaded. So if you want to keep data loading into the main table, then you can go for the instead of trigger. For example, you want to create such a logic that if someone try to create some insert, that data should not be loaded into that table, but it need to be tracked to somewhere, so that when auditing happens, people will get to know that who did what and why is trying to insert. You can ask those questions to him. right? So these are two important kind of trigger which we have in a SQL server, and I believe I tried each and everything to explain you. This is a live demonstration and we have understood it with the live demonstration. Hope you guys enjoyed our video and learn a lot, and please don't share with your friend, with your community, and don't forget to subscribe. Sharing will also reach to the lot of people who really need it, and that will help us to create more videos, because more the subscriber, more it will reach. They will ask their doubt, they will ask their question, so we can get an idea to create more videos. And thanks for watching. Have a great day.